Good afternoon. How are y'all doing? Y'all want to learn about some new electrical codes and fire codes and OSHA codes? Yes. All right. I've been doing this all over the country with engineering firms and cities and generator manufacturers. Everything takes power. But municipalities fall under what's called critical. Everything that y'all do for the community is deemed critical. Actually, more is deemed critical than y'all realize. Our largest critical customer in the entire country is Home Depot. What do y'all do when we had the big giant ice storm, everything went down? Where have you got to go? Carry all of this forward to the people that y'all deem are necessary to your community, because they are deemed critical. So it's obviously water, fire, all the things that y'all would think of as being a municipality. But understanding how these new codes are intertwined. You used to have an electrical code, you had NFPA. Now you have NEC, National Electric Code. You have NFPA, which actually writes it. But now they've tied OSHA to it. So it has to do with maintaining. So, 3 years ago, the big ice storm that knocked the biggest power outage in U.S. history, that everybody went through, that had a little bearing on this, but it just proved the mettle of what we're all here to do, that changed the codes. Lots of very dangerous things happened when that happened. Everybody's got to have power. And in order for that to happen, you have to maintain all of your backup generators in a specific way. And people just weren't doing it. And your generator companies just do what they've been doing. So the municipality is now liable to supply the correct connections that I'll go through real quick. So when they show up, they're not tearing your generators apart to try and maintain them. In non-conformance, there's no loopholes in this. So what this still shows is how NEC, National Electric Code 70B is about maintenance, and 70E is OSHA. So they have now tied all of those together. And when they put OSHA in it, as soon as the ink dried, it was done. So it's about liabilities. But being a municipality, yeah, you're worried about liabilities, but you want your community to be sustainable and not go through what we all went through 3 years ago. But because it's OSHA, it's not just about anything that you put in. It has to do with everything you've already put in. So every generator that you have at your facilities have to meet this code. So if they don't have a way for the generator company to come in and tie in, you have to add it. OSHA doesn't allow them to pull these things apart and do all these things illegally now. That makes them liable. So it ultimately comes back on whoever's using the power owns the generators, whoever's deemed critical. It's not just hospitals, it's everything that y'all do, water, fire stations, everything that y'all do is critical to that thing. And y'all fall under what's called 700.3F, but I'll show you too. So that right there is exactly what, I got any generator guys in the house here? There's some right here. That's what y'all have to do. You have to take the generator apart to load and test that generator. Are those breakers made to be taken apart repetitively? No. So a lot of the failures that the municipalities and everybody else saw in that storm was exactly because of that. The failures were at those breakers. An engineer that y'all have on your staff or that y'all use that are at this show, they design a system where the building ties into the generator, they torque everything down, they mark it, and they're done. But code says you have to load bank the generator because they typically don't ever see a load. It's very bad on the generator. So when the generator company shows up, if there's no way to plug and play, they have to take it apart. And they tear the lugs up, the cable up. It totally destroys the thing. Then OSHA got involved, said you don't have access to these things anymore. So it has to do about maintenance, which is 70B, and OSHA, which is 70E. But either way you put it, it's National Electric Code, it's all tied together. It's just letting people know, because that's literally what happens. So when a guy comes out, pulls the cover off the generator, it's open to the environment. If it rains or snows or whatever, and we're in Texas, you just don't know when that's going to happen. That's why that's illegal now. This can be like an 8-hour presentation, so I'm going to skip through this pretty quick. And I just explained a lot of the way it degrades the system, and the manufacturers of the breakers, of the generators. There's a lot of things now that when you buy the generators from somebody, they're liable too. So if they see something on a bid spec that y'all send out to buy a generator and they see it's not on there, they will alert y'all that that needs to be done. So the engineers, the manufacturers, everybody, they have to become more knowledgeable of this. Most fire inspectors that we talk to now, they're not even aware where this has happened. So you now can literally have an electrical inspector, a fire inspector, and an OSHA inspector, depending where you are, that can come inspect a facility. And it's turned into being a lot like a restaurant. So you have a city inspector that goes to restaurants to make sure they're up to code, and they have this checklist. Now there's a checklist for power. And you have 3 governing bodies that can inspect it. There again, they all tie together. There are no loopholes. There's no getting around this. Doesn't matter how big a city, a small city, or municipality you are, there are no loopholes. And there's no grandfathering in this. There again shows the same thing, how NFPA 110, which y'all won't understand, but they're codes specifically for hospitals and critical power generators, now ties specifically to National Electric Code. And National Electric Code ties to OSHA. So for safety reasons. When it gets into the hazards, what they have to wear, how often they have to do it, all falls into this. So compliance and enforcement, NEC, there's no option to this. Some places will plead ignorance. They didn't know any better. So we're doing these seminars to educate people, because once you're told, you can't plead ignorant anymore. Actually, you can't really plead ignorant if you're an inspector or whatever. You really need to know these things. But if we explain this to people and to the inspectors and to everybody involved in the community, and they still do it, it's not ignorance anymore. It's ability, it's actually stupidity if they do not do that correctly. And anybody that's in a city position or a county position doesn't want that harness on. And that 70B ties to NEC 70 and 70E. The way the whole thing comes together, it's taken many, many, many years. I've been doing this for 40 years in portable power, and then we integrated that into the permanent power. And so it's been a long time to get it done, and we've seen a lot of very bad things happen, and hurricanes are horrible. We've got crews in Jamaica right now that's really bad stuff happening. But when an ice storm comes in and it's -5 degrees for 2 days, that was way worse than any hurricane. It was horrible. It was very scary. People dying from carbon monoxide poisoning. You couldn't warm up. It was horrible. So this was a good time for this to happen. The climate, you can't decide, what's going to happen. here now. I left Houston yesterday. It was 92. I got here and it was 48. So we'll send y'all all, our booth is right across the way right here, and we'll get your card and we'll send you the information for all of this and the links to get all of these. But there's a lot of things that these facilities as a city has to do. So all of your facilities have to be evaluated. That means they have to go into a courthouse or a fire station or something that might be 50 years old. It has to be evaluated. It has a life. So it has to be evaluated into a class 1, 2, or 3. If it falls into that class number 3, yeah, it probably needs to replace, or they will mandate how often you have to test it. And this code doesn't apply just to emergency power. That's just what we're focused on. It applies to every main breaker, distribution, transformers, everything that you have in those critical facilities, not just the generators. This is National Electric Code. So you have to have trained personnel on all 3 codes. That can be an inspector, or it could be a maintenance person, or whoever, but there has to be somebody on the staff that is trained how all 3 of these all tie together. You have to have the appropriate PPE gear for testing. Open these things. It is dangerous. And it's not, that's why a lot of these things have happened. And it happens way more than you would ever expect. You're no longer allowed to alter a system. You can't go in and unwire something and wire something in. Totally against electric code now. Against OSHA. Against NFPA. The whole, no more altering the systems. Which is what a generator company would have to do every time they came in to do it. They were totally altering the system, and that's why there were so many failures during the ice storm. Or any storm. Before you go into any of these panels now, if you know there's a problem, you have to verify absence of power. Just a little thing you plug a fluke meter into, but you have to, this is the OSHA part of it. So you have to verify that it's safe and off before you go into it. No way around it. It's going to take a little while for this all to kick in, but the code's already there. So you just got to hope nothing happens until you get up to code. So there's a thing called thermal imaging. So a lot of the bad things that happened in that ice storm, because these connections had been broken over and over and over again, electricity goes to the path of least resistance. And if you have one of these things that they've done over and over again, it's not stripped down, it's not torqued right, electricity goes somewhere else. And they overheat and they burn up. So one of the new things that they have to do that applies to 70B, which is the maintenance thing, which ties to OSHA, they all have to be thermally imaged. So all your generator techs now have if they don't, they will have, it's called an IR gun, and it's thermally imaged. They point it at something. Y'all all probably have a little thing you point in the house and it'll tell you if something's hot. This points at it and it shows the color spectrum of something's hot. So every time you load test one of your generators, or you're testing your ATS, or you're testing your transformer, your main breaker, they have a little thing called an IR window that has to be installed, and they point the gun through there when it's under full load to see if it's heating up. You can see if there's a problem. This is all brand new stuff, but a lot of it came from the big data center surge you see going on right now. This is what they all do. And they should have been doing it, but now it's in general public. So this applies to all businesses, but the one I'm fixing to show you, 700.3, y'all are all deemed critical. So you not only do you have to load test it, you have to have a portable generator at the same time. If you take one of your buildings down that's critical, a wastewater treatment facility, and they show up to load bank the generator and they pull the leads out, you now have no backup system. Totally against code now. Can't do it. And if they find a problem, they have to plug in a portable generator while they work on it. That was another problem in the storm. When they did go down, there was no way to plug in a temporary backup. So part of that is you have to evaluate, develop, a maintenance schedule. You have a person that's responsible for that. It can be your wastewater guys. It can be the police chief, or it can be the fire chief, or whatever. They have to put somebody in charge, depending on the size of the county, the city, or municipality. Somebody's got to be in charge of developing that system and maintaining it. Now, you're going to inspect yourselves and hold yourself accountable? You need to, because this is extremely critical stuff. And there's a lot of details in here that I don't have time to go into, but it's super critical. There's not anything in any of our facilities or our homes or anywhere that doesn't have to have power. No communication, no money, no fuel, no water, no nothing. It's, the sustainability of your community is super critical, which is why y'all are here. Same thing for the maintenance. This is an example that shows after it's been evaluated, you have conditions. And there's companies here that go in and do the evaluation. Or you can have somebody trained to do the evaluation. But they have to come in and they visually inspect, clean, all these things they have to check for. And depending on how bad it is, it falls under condition, and that's what you have to do. We're in the process of training International Association of Electrical Inspectors, Fire Inspectors, OSHA Inspectors. So they're all familiar with this. IEEE actually did this presentation. That's the engineering. This is specifically to critical facilities. It's called 700.3F. This is the precursor of where these new codes came from. It happened in Miami when all the people died across the street from the hospital, when their little generator came on, their life support systems all worked, their air conditioning didn't work. They all died of heat exhaustion. Big red flag. One of the things that's deemed critical as far as life, it's not just the hospital, but any nursing home, retirement communities, anything like that are deemed it's life and death. So they have to have the ability, they have to be tested, and they have to have the ability to have that backup generator full size. So when you go to AI and Google this, it'll give you all the information you can imagine. But this was the precursor of what happened. So you basically have to test, which is the only way you test a generator is to load bank it. The emergency system shall include permanent switching means to connect a portable generator. Most of the cities and counties all have portable generators, but you have to have a way to connect it to your facilities. But you can't disable the means to test it when you do it. It's all simultaneous. The permanent switching means to connect a portable generator alternate the source of power shall comply with the following. The connection of the portable temporary generators shall not require modification. That's where 70B came from. Cannot alter it, can't take it apart, can't reassemble it. It totally degrades the system. It refers back to 712, which y'all aren't going to know, but it's the code that has to do with emergency systems and plugging in and switching. But it has to happen at the same time. If you're in the middle, if you take it off and you're load banking and you don't have backup anymore, you have to have the means for that portable. I know this is beyond a lot of what y'all understand, But if you take this stuff to your city engineers, it is super critical, and it is not any way to get away from it. So this is basically systems that are out there that allow you to not alter it. You can plug in a generator, you can plug in your load banks, and you do it all, and you don't need any tools. Everything's got to be plug and play. That's the OSHA part of it, and 70B. And that little thing that's on there is called a cam lock, which most of y'all have. That's the industry standard at all rental companies. If you don't have the generator and you call one of the generator rental companies, or you call Hertz or United or Sunbelt, they all have it. So it's a standard we set years ago. This is that voltage test port that you have to put on utility mains. Anything before they enter these enclosures or generators, it's very simple. It just verifies it's off before you go into it. You can use things on your existing buildings. You can't afford to put generators on every building that you've got. Some places do, some places don't. But you at least have to have the means to plug that generator in. And there are ways to, using what are called trap key interlocks that go on the utility breaker that's on your building. It's just a trap key interlock. It's kind of like lockout tagout. In Europe, lockout tagout's illegal. It's only as good as Billy Joe and Bubba getting together and doing it right. These trap key interlocks literally make it impossible to plug in the generator till you turn off the utility, take the key, open the door, and a bank teller can plug the generator in. They're all color coded. It basically turns the utility switch into a transfer switch. This is a thermal imaging, so the IR window and the guns that your electricians can have, but that little window is what's got to be installed on all your electrical gear, including the generator. I think I made this kind of clear. It's very, very, very critical that y'all take this to heart and spread the word. This is, like I said, the largest electrical change I've seen in doing this for 40 years. It affects every city, every municipality, every critical thing in the country in a very severe way. And it's probably not going to get the headlines until something bad happens. Another one of those storm hits, and this hasn't been done, you're going to get a big spotlight on you.